Most people are probably aware that there's a controversial number out there that's supposedly used to tell you how smart you are. A number that apparently is supposed to predict your future. One number known as IQ. But what if that number is a lie? Not just wrong, but outdated and not that great of a measurement. Welcome to a story about how intelligence got trapped inside a box and why it's time we break it open. Section 1. The ruler in the ocean. IQ tests measure intelligence the way a ruler measures the ocean. Sure, you get a number, but that number tells you very little about the depth, the power, the movement beneath the surface. It doesn't take into account EQ, emotional intelligence. IQ tests don't know if you're a genius with words or music or emotions. They don't know if you can fix an engine blindfolded or inspire a room full of people. Studies have been done, like the one on the screen, which can be used to challenge IQ supremacists or racial supremacists. So what can the standard IQ tests measure? Well, they do measure how fast you can spot patterns and solve puzzles under pressure. It's like calling a hummingbird stupid because it can't roar like a lion. And that's not very logical, is it? Different minds shine in different ways, and IQ tests don't care. Essentially, they seem to reward one type of brain and dismiss the other types of brain. Section 2. You can't weigh the invisible. Let's get technical for a second. In science, intelligence is called a latent variable. What does this mean? It means you can't hold it or see it. So trying to slap a number on intelligence is like trying to measure love with a ruler. It's not just bad science, it's lazy. Section 3. IQ fails for the geniuses too. People often assume that if you have a very high IQ, you must be some rare, extraordinary genius. But here's what they don't tell you. IQ tests were never designed to even measure if someone was a genius or not. Once you cross into the upper 120s, 130s and beyond, the test starts to break. As psychologist Dr. Linda Gottfredson puts it, IQ tests are not capable of distinguishing levels of intelligence among the very gifted. Imagine using a bathroom scale to measure the weight of a truck. It's going to give you something, but it's not going to be accurate. Same deal with IQ. Most tests cap around 160, some even lower. What matters more than IQ at the top end? Could it be curiosity, communications, creativity? In other words, everything IQ doesn't measure? Could future trends change the market of intelligence tests? Are intelligence tests a profitable market to make money? Leave a comment below what you think. Section 4. Culture isn't optional, it's the operating system. Here's the quiet truth that IQ defenders often ignore. IQ scores don't simply reflect a number. They ignore what lead up to the number in the test, meaning environment, access, and poverty. Here are some facts to open your mind up. Kazakhstan's average IQ is around 94, according to the World Population Review. That's higher than first world European nations like Romania, 89, and Bulgaria, 91.3. And another example, Kyrgyzstan, often labeled a developing country, scores higher than Croatia. How is that possible? Well, because IQ tests often measure how familiar you are with certain styles of reasoning, formatting, and even cultural content. Have you seen this shape before? Yes? Well, you will do better on the test. That doesn't seem fair, does it? And this is where it gets interesting. Feel free to look into this in your spare time. According to a 2007 study by Flynn and Weiss, every generation gains about 3 IQ points per decade, globally. Which is why Nigeria's IQ improved by a lot in the last decade. This is called the Flynn effect. So what does it prove? What looks like genetic superiority is often just better schools, safer environments, and more exposure. When education expands, nutrition improves, and healthcare stabilizes, IQ scores rise everywhere. Not because people got smarter, but because their conditions got better. And this also explains why Nigerian children raised in Europe often outperform their peers back home. It also explains why the IQ number of the Netherlands decades ago is the same as the average IQ of Africa now. Meaning, it's about resources. Section 5. The shape test and the Kenyan kids. Here's a real story no one talks about, because it flips everything. Researchers gave kids a standard Western IQ test. Lots of shapes, patterns, abstract puzzles. The kind of test that's supposed to reveal raw intelligence. Kids from rural Kenya outperformed American city kids in spatial reasoning. Study shown on screen. No preparation, no tutoring, no calculators. Because these Kenyan children live in environments that train spatial intelligence daily. They do plenty of real-world activities which Westerners were programmed to do, but don't. For example, they need to memorize complex routes without maps or phones. Their brains aren't shaped by textbooks. They're sculpted by real life, navigating forests, crafting solutions, reading the land. But in the study, American kids crushed them on tests about abstract shapes because those shapes are everywhere in Western schooling. Textbooks, games, worksheets. One group had exposure. The other had experience. So who's smarter? That's the wrong question. Because the test only values what one group has seen. But life demands more than pattern puzzles. Section 6. The genius of ordinary minds. Here's the thing we forget. Society works because everyone is involved. It works because we have people who score different numbers on IQ tests. Low IQ doesn't mean low worth. Microsoft knows this. That's why they run a program to hire people with autism, people who may struggle on traditional tests but excel at catching code errors and spotting patterns that stump normal engineers. They're not less capable, but they enjoy serving different types of activities. IQ is not value. Many people score average IQs, but run complex farms, raise resilient children, or design clothes that shift culture. And what about whole countries with low IQ? Fiji, for example, averages around 85, yet ranks in the High Human Development Index, with a booming tourism economy and strong community life. Thailand's average IQ about 90, yet it's a global hub for medicine, logistics, and exports. These societies function, thrive. Conclusion: the real intelligence revolution. Albert Einstein, arguably the most famous genius of all time, once said, the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Not how fast you can solve a puzzle, but how far your mind can stretch beyond the page. And Harvard psychologist Dr. Howard Gardner agrees. In his theory of multiple intelligences, he makes it clear we've confused test-taking ability with human intelligence. He argues the world runs on many forms of genius. Musicians, healers, dancers, builders, people who can move crowds, read emotions, survive crisis, or think in pictures. They all have intelligence, just not the kind a standardized test can score. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. For decades, IQ has been used to prop up racial hierarchies, quietly and loudly, to claim one group is naturally smarter than another. It's been weaponized to defend colonialism, apartheid, immigration bans, even eugenics. But the data tells a different story. In the UK, a longitudinal study by the Department for Education showed that on an even playing field, minorities have performed high in many different areas. And in the United States, a 2019 report by the National Science Foundation found that Black and Hispanic students in elite STEM programs perform on par with white students once educational access is normalized. So what's the IQ test really telling us? Not something vague like who's smart, but who had access along with many, many other factors. also was trained to think in the right format. For a certain type of exam, who's fluent in test logic, not life logic, we let IQ scores decide who deserves scholarships, jobs, and credibility. It's time we stop measuring minds with useless tools. Can you lead? Can you design? Are you getting it? Things that stretch past a piece of paper can change the world. Subscribe for more.